Good evening. It's time to bring the Macomb Township Planning Commission meeting to order. Please stand for a flag. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Shudo.
Here.
Mr. Provenzano. Here. Mr. Oliver.
Here.
Mr. Tuckfield is present. Mr. Hardy.
Here.
Mr. Bentley is absent and excused this evening. Mr. Krasinski.
Here.
Mr. Chairman, all members are present except for Mr. Bentley, who is absent and excused.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion we exclude Member Bentley from any and all roll call votes. Support.
Motion by Mr. Shudo to exclude Mr. Bentley from roll call, from votes, and supported by Mr. Hardy. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. At this time, I'm going to do just a little bit of housekeeping. Item 6C, rezoning request, general commercial residential on 24 in Hayes. We are going to table that. So if there's any residents here for that agenda item, we missed our time on the posting in the paper, and just one of those things that happened, and luckily the planning department caught it, and it's part of the law, and we have to abide the law, and it's a due process that we go through. So on behalf of Macomb Township, sorry for any inconvenience that we caused anyone if they have come. Thank you. You are welcome to stay for the meeting. Okay. All right, with that, approval of the minutes.
Mr. Chairman, there's no additions, deletions, or corrections. I make a motion we accept the minutes as read.
Support.
Motion by Mr. Shudo, supported by Mr. Tuckfield. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Approve of the agenda.
Mr. Chairman, if there's no other discussion, I'd like to make a motion to approve tonight's agenda as presented.
With the,
Do we want to move it forward? Do we want to postpone it at that time, or just leave it?
we'll
where
just
it is
leave
in
it.
the-
We'll just leave the postponement to when we come to it.
All right. So it'll be the agenda as presented.
Motion by Mr. Tuckfield to approve the agenda.
Support.
Support by Mr. Hardy. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
just for the record, the item 6C, you postponed it to the following meeting, just to be clear?
Yeah, do we have a
October 1st?
meeting date?
October 1st?
Mr. Chairman, if I could, the motion was not to postpone it yet. We were going to handle it in line.
Oh, okay, I'm
Unless you
sorry.
prefer us to handle it now.
Nope, I'm
But
good.
I think we are set to do that once we get to that item.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Item 6A, preliminary plan, Wolverine Estates, North Site Condominium, permanent parcel 0805-400-005, located on west side of Luckman Road, half-mile north of 25 Mile Road, Section 5, Arcadia Development Group, LLC petitioner, Mr. Maher.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. After review of the plan and review of the other department heads active in the site plan process, we find that the 30-unit condominium project does meet the requirements of the zoning ordinance and the land division ordinance, and we do recommend preliminary approval. We have brought up, just for the applicant's benefit, that we are concerned with lots 15 and 16 as to how the building envelope takes up most of the lot, which is still outside of the drain easement, which would mean that we'd have very little area for outdoor recreation, such as patios and decks. Therefore, during the final phase, we'll work with them and hopefully have those building envelopes reduced a little bit so that there's at least a reasonable amount for decks and patios before you hit the drain easement.
Okay. Petitioner in the audience on this item.
Good evening, Chris Kuzno, representing Acadia Development Group, LLC, 12955 23 Mile Road. I did review the planner's comments and the township's comments. I don't have any exception to those and available for any comments or questions.
Okay. Commissioners?
Mr. Chairman, my only comment would be I agree with the recommendation as far as lots 15 and 16. I've talked to Mr. Maher about this before. We've seen it in a couple other places where corner lots have intersected with drains. So I don't know what the appropriate setbacks would be to put on there, but I agree that that does need to be looked at and appreciate you looking at it. I also want to note for the record that I had checked on lot 4 with Mr. Maher prior to the meeting as far as width to depth ratio because I was concerned about it, and he did verify that that does comply. So my only 2 comments on that issue. Thank you,
Okay.
Mr. Chairman.
Anyone else? This time I'll open it up to the public. Is there anyone from the public that wants to speak on this item? Sir, come to the podium, please.
Commission, my name is Jason Boughton. I live at 55762 Stewart Drive. That is lot 27, just adjacent to Unit 1 of the proposed development. I'm speaking for the neighbors roughly right around the stub street of Stewart. The layout that's proposed is definitely very acceptable to the close adjacent neighbors of the original Wolverine Country Club, connecting the 2 stub streets and providing a future stub street to the west. The couple questions I have was the ability to provide a construction entrance off of Luckman instead of using the 2 public streets that exist currently. This would provide much safety to the current residents until the houses are built. And then at said time, remove said barricades and allow for the connections to go through. There's an existing drive from the existing house that already exists. That could be utilized along with the mud mat that needs to be provided for soil erosion and connect to the proposed roads, build the houses, and then remove the barricades at said time, whether that be 80 or 90% of the houses built out. My second worry or second question, more or less, is the landscaping along the park adjacent to the right-of-way of Luckman. Will it match the Wolverine landscape to the south with the brick and more mature trees than, say, to the subdivisions to the north, where they don't really have the brick walls that are breaking up the landscape? Lastly, there's an existing chain link fence that separates the parcels on the south property line. What is to come of that? I currently have a pool in my backyard. That fence is one of my 4 sides that I need to have to be in compliance. If that is to be removed for any connections or what have you to the utilities, will it be replaced at the developer's cost, or what is to be done? I understand the portion within the right-of-way needs to be removed for the stub street to connect, but the remaining portions that abut is the last question I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else on this item, sir?
Hi, my name is Jeremy Clark, and I
Bring
live.
that mic, there you
A
go.
little bit better?
Yeah.
Perfect,
Name
good.
and address.
Jeremy Clark, and I am at 55690 Stewart Drive. I'm roughly 3 or 4 houses down from Jason. I have all the exact same concerns. I don't have anything new to add to it, but I want to just say, even though he said that there was concerns of the neighbors, I have the exact same concerns that Jason has. If we look at the plans for opening up that drive, there is already a fence there that blocks Stewart from going into that existing home land. And if we left that continue to stay there and open up a construction entrance, that would significantly reduce the traffic. There are 3 children bus stops, 3 of them from the entrance to the sub to where that entrance goes into the new proposed site. That 3 bus stops are kindergarten all the way through the 8th grade, or I'm sorry, 6th grade. So all the way through elementary. So three bus stops in that one zone alone. So in regards to the safety, it would be a huge relief from us to not have to look at that construction coming through, large construction trucks coming in early in the morning till late at night when all these kids are getting off the school buses. And so a construction entrance would be really, really appreciated.
Okay,
So
Thank
that's
you.
it. Thank you.
anyone else?
Good evening. I'm Angela Deacon. I'm on Stewart Drive at 55679, and I am on the, I'm a couple houses down from the development on a corner of Player and Stewart. My concern is exactly what was presented from my other neighbors. I agree with what they said, and I would also like to ask for that fence to stay put and a separate road for construction, due to safety and the traffic and et cetera. But I just wanted to put it on the record because that is our biggest concern in that area since we've been through it so many times. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else on this item? Being none? Close that portion, bring it back to the board. Mr. Kuzno, you have anything to add to this?
So, as it relates to the construction access, it was our intent to use that existing driveway for the construction during land development. But obviously, when the streets get paved, we need to open up that roadway. It's going to be dedicated to the road commission, so they're going to require that it be open. But during land development, utility construction, paving, I don't have any issues in coming off of Luckman Road. That was our intent.
So that's a temporary that's there now.
It's an existing driveway that services that existing house
Okay.
that's on the property.
And you'll be able to continue using it,
We can, yes,
okay, until the roads get in,
correct.
okay? Anything else on the other issues, the fence? Maybe that's Mr. Maher could help us on that. On that fence, Mr. Maher,
You know,
Could you add to
that's gonna be a decision, I think, largely of the developer. You know, there are portions of the fence that will have to come down, anything that's within the front yard of the homes where it traverses the, I'm not sure what the road is, but Stewart Drive. I think Stewart Drive would be the only one it would impact. Oh, and also around the retention basin.
that'll be something that the developer and the homeowner will work out together. Correct?
Yeah, the, you know, again, the fence, we don't have an ordinance that would prevent it, but our ordinance does say it can't remain in the front yard. So as that's developed, that fence would have to be pulled back to a post back, you know, at the front yard line of both lot 27 and lot 28 across the street.
Okay. Did we cover everything?
Yeah, I just would want to make sure, the only other question was about with regards to landscaping. I believe that's something we look at on the final drawing, is that correct?
Right, we don't require a landscape plan until final submittal. And that
Okay.
way we know where the utilities are and we're not jockeying around at the end trying to move stuff after the approvals.
And Mr. Chairman, if I could, two further questions on that. So just so I understand and everyone understands the process correctly, in the process of putting through a site condo, which is what this is, divided homes that will look very much like all the ones around them as far as size and lot layout. They come before us with a preliminary, which gives us the basics of the plan, rough layout, rough features, et cetera, and then they come back with a final after you guys have had the chance to review it and do all the engineering on it, that would have some of the more site-specific things, such as the landscaping, such as sidewalk layouts and things of that nature.
Correct, and all the utility easements, so.
And then secondarily to that, there was some conversation about the roads through here, and I just want to verify, with a road that's dedicated to the county, they cannot keep those closed, is that correct? Once they're built, they have to remain open?
Soon as they're turned over to the county, they'll demand that they be open.
So it's not something that the developer, where we have any leeway on. Once they're there, they have to be open.
No, I mean, we can still work with the developer on the construction access to see if it can be utilized until near the end of the development, but
And that's typically something you do as your kickoff meeting with the engineer at the beginning of the project, once the final plan has been.
yeah, it's typically addressed at the pre-construction meeting.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Mr. Meyer. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Okay. Being that said, comments, motions?
Actually, I do have one more question. I think this will be brief. This probably goes to the final. They show, and this might be to the petitioner as well, there's two detention basins in here. It's not something I'm typically familiar with seeing. Is there a reason behind having two? Is it just the lot makes it more convenient? What's the purpose with that?
So I can answer that. So there's an existing thole drain that's enclosed that runs north and south. If you can see it kind of to the rear of 16 and 17. To get the stormwater on the west side of that, it was difficult to cross that drain. So that's why we have two separate detention basins, to keep all the drainage on the west side of the existing thole drain within that detention basin on the west side, and everything east is within the other detention basin on the east side of thole drain.
Okay, I'm not sure that I follow, but I'm not sure that I really need to. It's one of those things that I'm just curious. I don't understand. It's not something we typically see, so. All that said, I don't know if there was any other questions before I pushed in. If there wasn't any further, I'd like to make a motion to recommend the preliminary plan for the Wolverine Estates North Site Condominium Permanent Parcel 0805400005 to the Board of Trustees for approval, based on the reviews by our department heads, the fact that it thus far matches the ordinance as set forth from Macomb Township.
Motion by Mr. Tuckfield to recommend to the Board of Trustees preliminary plan, Wolverine Estates Northside Condominium. Is there a second on that?
Support.
Second by Mr. Krasinski.
Yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. 6B, ground sign Sycamore Glen Apartments, permanent parcel 0825100020, located on south side of 22 Mile Road, east of North Avenue, section 25, Redwood Living petitioner. Ma'am. Name and address, please.
Yes, good evening. Emily Engelhart with Redwood Living, 7510 East Pleasant Valley Road, Independence, Ohio, 44181.
Okay, Mr. Maher.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The request is for 3 ground signs, one at each of the entranceways and one at the corner. With residential developments, we only allow for the signs at the entrances, so we have recommended denial of the sign located at the corner as part of this, but all the signs do meet our height requirements, our setbacks, our square footage. They are all externally lit as required by the ordinance. And the 2 are located at the entrance. So I would recommend that both entrance signs be approved and that the corner sign be denied based on the ordinance requirement.
Okay.
We've reviewed the comments from the township planning consultant and the engineer, and we accept their recommendation.
Okay. Commissioners, questions on this item?
No, sir.
Nobody? Okay, this time I'll bring it to the public. Anyone in the public have anything on this item? Being none, bring it back to the board for comments, motions.
I'll make the motion to approve the ground signs for Sycamore Glen Apartments at both entrances and not at the corner.
Support.
Motion by Mr. Hardy to approve the ground signs for Sycamore Glen Apartments, both signs, and supported by Ms. Provenzano. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Have a good evening.
Yep. Item 6, rezoning request, general commercial C2 to residential multiple medium density.
Mr.
We have
Chairman,
some discussion on that.
are you looking for a postponement on this?
I'm looking for a postponement till the October 6th of 19th meeting. Is that correct,
First, I
Mr.?
think it's the first.
October 1st,
You got,
October 1st.
oh, October 1st. Thank you for that. October 1st, 2019 meeting.
Unless you want to meet on a Sunday.
October 1st is fine. That's church day. Okay.
Who made the motion? I'll second it.
I'll make a motion to postpone the rezoning request for the general commercial to residential multifamily density permanent parcel 0807300016 to October the 1st, 2019.
Motion by Mr. Tuckfield,
Support.
Support.
support by
Actually, Roger
He
had
gotcha.
pre-supported it, but
That's fine.
Support by Mr. Shudo. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Very good. Old business. Mr. Maher.
Mr. Chairman, we have no old business for you tonight.
Thank you. Item 8, public comments, non-agenda items.
Alex?
Bring that back. Item 9, commissioners' comments.
Mr. Chairman, we did receive a copy via email of the sign ordinance from Washington Township, and hopefully by the next meeting, we can get that printed in a copy of our sign ordinance from Macomb Township, so as a board, we can look at them, review them, and give recommendations to our planner what we think we need to improve our sign ordinance for the township. So hopefully by the next meeting, the planning department can get us both copies of the ordinances. We can view them at the next meeting under new business, old business, look at them, maybe have some discussion, present it to Patrick what our thoughts are, and go from there.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else?
Mr. Chairman, I had two items. One, I just want to check with Mr. Maher if he had been able to look into the item we talked about last, item we heard about rather, last meeting with regards to the impervious surface. Have you been able to look into that at all or make any headway on that?
You know, at this point in time, I haven't, and I apologize for that, so I will try to get with Jim and the building department and come up with some language for the next meeting.
I know you're busy, just wanted to check on it.
No, I think that's an important issue to get addressed before the ZBA starts to see numerous variances.
Well, and I think if we start working on it now, we have a shot of getting it done sometime in the late winter, early spring before the next batch of these types of things will come through.
Yeah, agreed.
The other question I had might be to Mr. Krasinski, and you may not have an answer for it this evening. I'm just curious, if we had, you're our board liaison, have we had any movement on a planner? My concern is mostly with the master plan, and I know Mr. Maher's been generous to step in and take care of things on a temporary basis, but the master plan's a little bit of a different project. Do we have any movement yet on a planner?
I haven't heard any yet from the Madam Chair, so
Okay.
she hasn't said anything yet
Obviously,
on where
it's,
she's going.
obviously, it's something of importance to all of us,
Yep,
and
I know.
I'm sure she knows this, but I know any of us would help if we can, so. That was all for Commissioner comments, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Item 10,
Nothing other than
Trustee
the question from
liaison.
Mr. that I couldn't answer. you know.
thank you, Mr. Krasinski. ZBA update.
Mr. Chairman, we had a ZBA meeting 2 weeks ago. It was our second meeting with regards to the preschool daycare at the corner of 22 and North Avenue. There was 3 or 4 variances being requested. It ended up being denied. There was several layers of reasoning for it. It was a bit of a tight vote, but I think the biggest reason was the petitioner was requesting to put in I believe it was a vinyl fence, and specifically there was some willingness to.
It was denied, right?
Yes. There was some willingness to do to not do the vinyl fence. So I think that was a concern there, and we do not know at this point what may be happening with that project. So just wanted to pass that along.
Thank you. Planning Department's item. Anything?
No, Mr. Chairman, just that we'll get copies of the two sign ordinances out. If you guys get a chance, just kind of browse through it, see, kind of compare it. Some of it comes directly from your current ordinance, some of it comes from the Supreme Court action, some of it comes from some of the stuff I stole from some of my previous sign ordinances. And, you know, the goal is to simplify it, so as you read through it, if you see something that could be simplified, you know, let's talk about it and see what we can do to keep it simple.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Shudo,
Support?
support by Mr. Hardy. All in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you.